Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. This webinar is a OneTick Academy webinar, and this is an update on our learning management system. The agenda today, quick introduction to our speaker, Andrew. Andrew's going to take you through some of the training resources, and we'll just go through some next steps after that. Andrew Diamond is a senior pre-sales engineer at OneTick. Andrew's been bouncing around IT departments and banks, consultancies, and software companies, mainly in the financial sector, for over 40 years. He's been involved with market data for the last 10 years. And while his career, as he would say, is peacefully drawing to a close, he's very willing to help out market data. The OneTick Academy. So the purpose of OneTick Academy is to help train and educate people about how to use the OneTick query language and other elements of the OneTick platform. As you know, OneTick is an enterprise client server time series market database. OneTick users perform various different roles. And we provided the OneTick Academy learning paths to match those roles. It was in development for some time, was launched last year. Both Andrew Diamond and Peter Simpson, the OneTick product manager, has spent a lot of time developing videos and thinking about courses and paths that can take people to become more expert in their knowledge and understanding OneTick. Over time, we will continue to expand the course offerings by adding courses and other OneTick APIs and other aspects of the OneTick product platform. At this point, I'm going to hand this over to you, Andrew.
Okay, well, let's go straight into the OneTick Academy. It's very, very simple to start. You go to academy.onetick.com and you're there. We do require that you register and sign in. This is mainly so we can keep track, or you can keep track of how you're doing in the courses. It also allows us to collect statistics on which courses are more popular, etc. But there's no sort of approval process. If you want to use the Academy, any of your colleagues can use the Academy without us having to give you the say-so. And what you see at the top are three things which are sort of in reverse order of importance. The main one that you're probably interested in is the training courses, where we have courses on, as we'll see, three at the moment main streams, which are quite extensive courses. The biggest one, the one on the OneTick query language itself, probably takes a couple of days to complete. If you're already into OneTick and you're just looking for quick tips, tricks, whatever, we have a selection of very, very short videos, mostly prepared by my colleague, Peter Simpson, who's the product manager. Worth searching through. We'll have a look at them later. Very, very often they will answer a question which you would have to wait for a support answer for if it wasn't there. And also a comparatively new thing. We have all of our release notes going back many years available on the OneTick Academy. Saves you the previous requirement to search through old emails or onto the installation itself. So we now have all our release notes in one place, which is very convenient. So let's have a look at these three areas. As I said, the one that most people will be interested in is training courses, where we have three main streams. We have a stream for people who are interested in querying OneTick data. We have a stream for people who want to build applications with OneTick inside. And we have a stream for people who are responsible or involved in installing and administering OneTick. So let's have a look to see what's inside these. Querying a OneTick, we have at the moment, and one thing I will say now, OneTick Academy is expanding all the time. Every month there are new things on it to look at. But at the moment we have streams on using the OTQ OneTick query language, the base OneTick visual query language to build queries. We have modules on using Python, the Python layers that sit on top of the OTQ layer for those who prefer to create their queries in Python. And the similar sit on top layer, which is the SQL flavor of the OneTick query language. We also have a module on using the web API. Basically, it was designed for people who are using our cloud data, who are using our own resources to retrieve data. But you may have your own local web server to deliver OneTick data. And we have a module on how to query that data using the various dialects and languages and facilities to do that. There's a new one which has only been up for a couple of weeks. If you don't want to do or haven't yet done the full 2-day OTQ course, there is a very, very quick, fast introduction here where we spend about 45 minutes building a fairly complex query from scratch Not going into too much depth, but in order to show you how the language works, how the main query building tool works, so you can get a pretty good flavor of what OneTick querying is before you do a deep dive. Let's show you that deep dive on the first course, give you an idea of the sort of thing you'll see. So designing OneTick queries. Again, for the courses, you do have to register for each individual course. And again, that gives you the ability to have the academy keep track of what you've done, what you haven't done, and how far you've done. If we didn't have registration, you'd have to keep track of that yourself. We do try and limit nag mails to the absolute minimum. So if you do register, don't worry, it won't keep on mailing you to say you've done a half-finished course. So what have we got down here? We've got 3 courses. We've got an introduction to OneTick itself. We've got effectively day 1 of the query course. And we've got day 2 of the query course, which goes into some more advanced techniques. Below those, again, we have a number of courses. So the whole thing is pretty well structured. So on day 1, which you can stretch out to as long as you want, there are no time limits on these courses. We talk about the basics of the query language and the simpler operations, joining and merging, aggregating, state variables and structuring your queries, how we manage order books in an efficient way in OneTick and how you can query those stored order books, and a few other things specifying a time series, what you actually have to put in your query to get back the data that you want. All of these also contain quizzes. This particular course has got a 21-minute video on basic concepts, a couple of things on how to filter your data. Throughout the courses, we have exercises and quizzes to keep you on your toes, but that's what the bottom level one of our courses looks like. Similarly, on day 2 of the course, you'll learn more stuff. There's a prerequisite section which tells you how to download the sample databases that are used in all of these courses. And we cover some more advanced topics. On the Python course, at the moment, well, the way these courses work, you will sometimes see modules in multiple courses because there are different paths which require the same data. So again, we see the introduction to OneTick, we see the introduction to the query language, and down here we see courses on the Python API. We do have a newer Python API and we are preparing training on that, the OneTick.py API. This covers the existing Python query API. As I said, this is expanding all the time, so we should see another couple of courses here before very long. We look at the other streams, building OneTick applications. Again, this is in the course of expansion. At the moment, we have a module which introduces you to our Visual Dashboards product, so you can build Windows or web visual applications with OneTick queries inside. Again, I hope very soon to see another panel here which covers our other language APIs. That's in progress. And the last set of courses, installing and administering OneTick. Here we have a fairly thorough overview of all you need to know to run a OneTick, what OneTick actually is, the architecture of a typical on-site OneTick implementation, how we get data into OneTick, how we collect or load data. Once it's in there, how we store it. Once it's stored, how we get it back out again, how you install and configure a local OneTick implementation, how OneTick deals with fault tolerance, how a licensing model works, how we can monitor our OneTick implementation to make sure it's up and running and healthy, and various aspects of security and control, how we ensure that only the people who you want to see the data can see the data, how you can ensure that only people who are allowed to change data are allowed to change data, that sort of thing. but it covers things like authentication, entitlements, and so on down here. Oh, as you will see, on all of our courses, we have a feedback form. And if you do one of these courses, it's really helpful if you do fill in the feedback, because we do actually read it, and we do actually change courses depending on what the feedback is. So please look at the feedback. Please tell us what you think. We also have, at that top level, a full course catalogue, where we have some courses which cover things which aren't obvious candidates to be in the main courses. For example, there's a module here on how to build continuous contract reference data. And again, reference data is an aspect which we are expanding. I would expect before very long to see a reference data panel at that top level, of which this will be one of the members. Okay, so that's what we see under courses. If we go back home, we will see the how-to section, where we have a large number of very much smaller videos describing the various aspects of OneTick and how it works and how it achieves what it achieves. And below that, a lot, I don't know how many we've got now, I guess 50, very short videos on how to do things like create views in OneTick, adding to a bars database, small use cases, small jobs, which if you want to do them, have a look in the how-to. We might have one of these small videos telling you how to do it, how to set up alternative timestamps, how nanosecond timestamps work. Section on CEP, short videos giving you an introduction to most of our loaders and collectors. Short videos on API connectivity to other systems, how we can get data from non-OneTick ODB sources or JDB sources or Grafana sources or whatever, and so on. A section on a lot of the jobs that you'd very commonly want to do in OneTick, typically with a Python example and an OTQ example. In this case, if you want to calculate moving averages, how you do it in OneTick. If you want to combine trays and quotes, a very common use case, and so on. So it's worth searching through these, having a look through these. They will answer a lot of your questions in a, as you see, 2-minute video. As I said, something that's quite new and very useful, the fact that we now have our release notes all sitting in the OneTick Academy. So that's what's in OneTick Academy. It's, as I said, developing very fast, growing very fast. It was greatly accelerated, like so many other things, by COVID. We started doing it before COVID, but now we really think it's a better way of training than face-to-face, because you can do it at your own time. We can have much bigger courses than we could reasonably do with on-site or face-to-face training, because we can cover many more aspects and you can pick and choose exactly what suits your requirement. Let us know what you think. Have a look at it. Provide us with feedback.
Super, thanks so much. Now for questions. So one of the questions someone asked, part of this course, can we set up the parameters related to the dashboard in the platform? So the questions in relation to the OneTick dashboard, Andrew.
There is at the moment one course on the OneTick dashboard. Effectively, it covers the basics. It talks about building a dashboard. We go through a worked example of building a dashboard. There is also, if I remember rightly, a section in that training on how to implement web dashboards. So how to deploy the dashboard to a web server. If the question is specifically about passing parameters to a web dashboard, honest answer is I can't remember if we cover that in the course. If we don't, it will be covered in the next iteration of the course.
Super, thanks so much. So actually quite a lot of people requesting access to training resources.
Well, that's there. All you need to do is go to academy.onetick.com. Oh, one thing I'd like to say while we're talking about that It's very useful for us if you use your work email address rather than a Gmail or Hotmail address. That way we can know what our clients are actually doing. We can, actually get back to you, and we can wave a stick and say, you're asking a lot of questions about OTQ, but we can see that none of your staff have actually completed the training. Maybe you'd like to push them a bit. So if you could use your work email address rather than a private address to register, that would be really useful for both you and us.
So it'd be great. Still we have quite a lot of questions, Andrew, about future requests.
Well, if you've looked at the Academy and there's something that's not on there that you think should be on there, as I said, we are in the course of preparing and looking at preparing a lot more content. It would be really handy if we could hear from you guys what it is that you'd like to see next, so we can prioritize. So feedback, what you'd like to see there, very useful. As I said, I'm pushing, and in fact, we are planning to have a lot more on the language APIs other than Python. For example, a training stream on the newer Python API, which is going to be there.
Okay, so another question. Perhaps another training would be very useful to give us demonstrations related with setup parameters, OneTick. So that's an excellent question. So every quarter we do product updates with Peter Simpson, who's the OneTick product owner. And so I'll make sure that Peter sees that. Andrew, I've got the screen up here, which is the OneTick Academy. And so if someone wants to register, there's a sign-in button on the top right. How do they actually go and register?
The process is, if they go to that sign-in button, you just see a sign-up screen.
So that's super simple.
And it asks very, basically, it will ask for an email address and a name.
First name, last name, email, company, and password. So that's pretty easy to get set up. That's just academy.onetick.com.
Yeah, but as I said, there's no sort of approval process. So, put in a real email address. We can't really stop you putting in something else elsewhere. We'd rather you used your real name. And as I said, we'd rather you used your work email address, but we don't control those things.
As always, to learn more about OneTick, please visit onetick.com, email us at info@onetick.com, and we'll hold additional training webinars and product update webinars on OneTick and other products in the platform. So thank you so much, Andrew. Very good.
Thank you, everybody. And thanks, Justin, for hosting.